Hello and welcome everybody to yet another video on the premium channel. So today we are going to be talking about a very important concept called linear processing. Now basically, what is linear processing? How does it impact a child? First of all, I'm going to help you understand the difference between linear processing and random processing. Okay, so and what does that mean? How does it impact a child on the autism spectrum? Linear, is this visible? Is this visible? Or I can pick up another pen. Wait a minute. No. Is it visible? Clear? Linear processing and random processing. What do these two terms mean? How do they impact our child and his or her processing abilities is what we are going to talk about. Looks like very technical, but trust me, it's not. It's simple, and if you only focus a little bit, you will understand that this is extremely important aspect of our child's learning. And if this is in place, then our child will learn much faster any kind of academic concept. So let's start. Linear processing, as you can see here, basically means the ability of the child's brain to put the information one after the other in a logical and sequential manner. For example, if there is a child who has to explain the germination of seed, okay, or maybe a child who has to explain evaporation. So all of these concepts will be explained by the means of linear processing, which means the child will understand. Processing means processing the information. So when the information has gone in, then the child has processed it one step after the other, and then the child is able to give it out in the same manner, that one step and then the next, and not eating some steps in between. Many a times parents say that, he tries to say something and suddenly he will just say the first line of the story, and then he will say the last line and maybe one more line, and something that happened in the middle he will say in the end, and it just doesn't add up and it doesn't make sense. So what is basically happening in that child's case? Linear processing somewhere is not fully developed or established. And for concepts like EVS, concepts like telling a story, okay, so like write the story in your own words, or explaining some incident or something that happened one step after the other in a proper logical manner, requires the linear processing abilities. Okay, now a very quick note on what is random processing. Linear processing versus random processing. Linear processing is a function of the left brain. Okay, so or like mathematics and dry and numbers and all the CAs, so they will linearly process information, 2 and 2 4, 3 and 2 5, like that, very cut and dry. Random processing is a part of the right side or the right hemisphere of the brain. That is what poets do. So they will look at a crop that is moving in the wind. Yeah, in a farm with the wind, the crop is moving, and they will say, it seems like there is a wedding. There's this poem in Hindi that a wedding is happening and all the guests are wearing yellow colored clothes. From where is all that imagination coming? Random processing. So by very definition of it, linear processing is very important, and so is random processing, but they have to be used in different areas in the right context, right? So if our children are only random processing, then when we are showing them something and they are just moving on to Peppa Pig, because maybe out of the whole picture they understood from the whole thing, just one thing, and they connected it to something and they are lost in their own world. So that is random processing, but random processing going wrong. Yeah, as in, it's not that we don't need random processing. We absolutely need random processing, but there are certain areas where only linear processing is required, like explaining the water cycle, explaining photosynthesis, explaining the food chain, yeah, or explaining anything, any scientific or even history, geography. So you have to say first thing and then the next and then the next. It cannot start with the king died, right? So it starts with the king, he invaded the land and then he looted this and then he did this, finally he ruled these many years and he died. So it has to be a full kind of what happened after what. That is linear processing. So if your kid is facing a difficulty with linear processing of information, what to say behind what, and because of that you are struggling, that they're not able to tell the story or they're not able to write the answers, and you are tired of doing ratta, iske baad beta ye bolna hai, iske baad ye bolna hai, and still not getting it. So here are some ways or some quick tips that you can use to help develop your kids' linear processing. Okay? Alright. So, yeah, it is ulta. I prepared this beforehand so that we don't waste a lot of time. What you can do is, if you want to teach linear processing to your child, you can take, I've just taken an example, so just 4 or 5 of these so that I can explain here what's happening. So, like first strip, these are strips of paper, okay, and we got blue tack behind. Yeah, so I just posted it here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open this board of mine and I'm going to show it over here. Yeah, where I've just written. So I'm going to show it over here. So if suppose you are doing photosynthesis, so you will make strips of paper like this and you will write one thing that happens. First of all, sunlight falls on the leaf, okay. Leaf has chlorophyll, green color chlorophyll. So leaf makes its own food. So all of that one step at a time, one step. So I have taken here this story, just 3-4 strips to help you understand. So first we will explain the story. Like say for example, is it zoomed enough? It is visible. Huh? So let's say this is Ali's story. So we always start with once there was a boy, his name was Ali, or once there was a king, his name was Raja Vikramaditya, or once there was an old man. So we always start narrating a story like that. So what we have done is, we have made strips like this. So this is what you will do. So when you have first orally, verbally explained to the child the story, then you will start making, now suppose this is a 4-page story. So obviously you can't do it in 5 strips. This is just for example. So you will take 5 strips, build it up. What are we doing? We are giving the mental image to the picture. The brain is mental image to the brain. The brain is clicking a picture of the whole thing and then it will retrieve as time goes by. Okay. So things like, first we will say, okay beta, once there was a boy, and you put it here. You say, okay, read, once there was a boy. So we will start our story like this. Once there was a boy. First sentence, once there was a boy. Next sentence, what is boy's name? What should be the next sentence? Tell me, bacha. So he says Ali, because he's heard the story, because you have narrated the story over and over again. You say the full thing. His. So he goes, his name Ali. Say the full thing. His name was Ali. Find out which one. The child picks up this one. You say yes. So you say, once there was a boy. His name was Ali. Okay. Next. Ali was very poor. Now this is just a fictitious story I have created to give you an idea. So like this, first paragraph maybe in the book, you will create these. Okay. Then you will practice and then you will again put it back, jumble it here and say, now your turn. First which strip, now you read, now you tell. After a few of the attempts, then you say, okay, keep the strips away. Now tell me, first sentence was once. So he goes, once there was a boy. Excellent, very nice. That was our first sentence. Like this, you will go paragraph by paragraph, slowly. And these strips you can laminate. You can simply cut out a A4 sheet and laminate it. Because what happens is, I have done this for the sake of explaining. So this is simple paper which I will throw. But when you are working with the kid, if you have a strip of paper and you use nail paint and nail paint remover, and you can just, with the permanent marker you have written, and you can wipe it off and then use the same strips for more stories. So like this, you can just laminate, cut, and it will be very, very useful to create these. You can buy a board like this, and then you can continue to, one day Ali lived with his mother, and one day Ali's mother fell sick. So this is the first paragraph of this so-called fictitious story that I created to give you an idea. This practice you can do with EVS, with geography, with science, with English, with Hindi. So you can cut the simple strips and you can practice as many times as is required until the kid begins to give you the first paragraph and then the second paragraph, and so on and so forth. Like this you will, and then you will keep the strips away. So let's say, for example, you practice enough number of times, you keep it away and you say, okay beta, now your turn, tell me the story, come on, start. Once. So like this, giving enough practice, eventually you will see that a child begins to narrate a 4 to 5 sentence story, then goes on to narrating a 10 sentence story, then goes on to narrating a 1-page story, and finally goes on to narrating a 4-page story, also over a period of time, because his linear processing skills were worked upon and his abilities improved. So this is how you will improve linear processing. When it comes to random processing, how are we going to improve? That is very interesting, very simple, very creative. So say for example, if you're going in a car and the sky is full of clouds. So what you will do is you will take your mobile and click a picture of one of the clouds. And then if you have a stylus, or you can use a text or something on it, on the picture, then you will draw with your hand and say, look, this looks like a mango. This cloud looks like a mango. Look up again. Now that cloud you have clicked, you have shown by making, using the outlining the boundary, and now you're again making him look at the cloud. So he says, you say, yeah, the cloud looks like a mango, and look at that cloud. What does it look like? Slowly over a period of time, even if you don't create, with the sketch and the outline and stuff, still the kid will, and you say, that looks like an elephant. Look carefully, that's the trunk, that's the paunch. That cloud looks like an elephant. So what are we doing? We are creating random processing skills. Yeah, and see, we don't know where the kid will use the random processing skills. We really don't know. But they will come in handy if a child has good imagination. Yeah, and just to share with you, my younger one was learning to make roti, and it went all over the place. And my elder one, who's doing hotel management and is doing this roti business every day, like in college and stuff, he came and he laughed and he says, this is Australia's map, this is not roti. So where did that come from? That came from the random processing bit. And if nothing else it is helping in build a conversation. Although that led to a fight between the two. But then fight also requires a verbal volley of words. And he says, tu chup kar, mujhe aata hai, main kar lunga. And he says, main sikha deta hu, katori rakh ke kaat le. So there is so much of conversation and language that just went into the whole thing with one random processing thought from this boy who said, ye Australia jaisa lag raha hai. So random processing will have its own value. Random processing will basically result in development of a lot of vocabulary. Okay, so I gave you a tip on how do you develop random processing. And linear processing is extremely important for doing academics, because that's like a no nonsense thing. Iske baad kya, iske baad kya, iske baad kya, iske baad kya. And the kid needs to know how to narrate the whole thing, one step after the other, like that, so that in a sequential format, the kid can explain logically that which he wants to explain. So on that note, keep practicing like the way I gave you these ideas for random and for linear processing, and keep seeing your kid bloom to their highest potential. Bye bye.